Hey guys, it's Adam. I hope you're doing lovely. Welcome back to Do You Watch Anime, where I sit down with a guest and ask them, Do you watch anime? And we go from there. And today, joining me is voice actor in such anime as Suho in True Beauty, um, Mao in Twilight Out of Focus, and Adam Taylor in When Why Rihanna Ended Up at in the Duke's Mansion. There we go. Eduardo Vildasol, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. I know it's a mouthful to say all those titles sometimes. I was joking with a friend recently. Sometimes like some anime shows, I'm like, man, they really give you the whole plot in the title. Okay, I dig it. I know what I'm getting when I first dive in.
Oh yeah, straight up, especially Ray Liotta. Oh my god. Um
No, I know. I was gonna say I think it's even longer actually, technically in the webtoon or the manhwa actually, and then
yeah,
they truncated it for the anime. So don't ask me what it is in the manhwa because I can't remember.
yeah, yeah, no worries. So, do you watch anime?
I do, funny enough.
Oh
Wow.
my god.
I know, small world. I do, I do. I kind of say it's business meets pleasure.
Mhm.
I partly for work's sake and just being able to know what's going on and also because I've got friends who are also in this industry and I absolutely love their work and I love to
Yeah.
support. And then also just because I really enjoy it. So yeah, it's a 50-50 mashup, you know.
Love that. So, how did you originally get into anime?
Oh, it's funny. I was having a conversation recently with my brother, and like I
Mhm.
think it was kind of in terms of like, wait, who started watching what first, and sort of thing. And I think actually our gateway, oddly enough, was to anime was actually through video games, and it was kind of
Okay.
more of like narrative where it was like Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, that sort of thing,
Yeah.
and then kind of went in further. But I'm trying to think if I have like an original anime that I started with. I think I joined certainly a large percentage of people who would count a Miyazaki film as like one of their firsts.
Mhm.
But one in particular that comes to mind is Howl's Moving Castle actually, and
Okay. Heck
um,
yeah, so good.
oh my god, it's still
Oh,
it's still it's still I will at least watch it at least a handful of times every single year just because I think it kind of inspired for me like a love of like I mean, it's super fantastical and it's beautiful. It has so many different elements of every genre you could want. But one of the things that I really love about it is that it also takes like these beautiful slice of life moments that are very quotidian. Where it's like I think about like that opening scene in the movie when like you're in I think it's Sophie's hat shop, right?
yep.
And you're just like you see all this beautiful illustrated detail and it's like and you realize like oh like this is kind of like an insertive device where you're like I feel like I'm in the room with you here now and now we're following Sophie and we're going into this adventure and so yeah it got me from the second that I watched it so and I'm still hooked.
Yeah, yeah. I Howl's Moving Castle is so good. Um,
Mhm.
it's probably my I want to say second favorite Ghibli movie.
Oh yeah, okay, what's your
Yeah,
first what's the
my
top?
my first is Whisper of the Heart.
Seen it, okay.
Yeah, it's like literally just like a rom-com but Ghibli.
Okay,
Um,
no.
yeah, yeah. I don't think Miyazaki worked on that one, but I was like, give me more,
Yeah, no,
please. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Dude,
It was
I was raised on a steady diet of rom-coms. I get it, man. I was gonna say, oof, right after my heart.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, we my partner's sister watches Howl's like once a month.
Oh, no, hey, there you go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we have it on quite a lot. Yeah,
Nice.
it's so good. And like the cast, oh my god.
Incredible. I mean, incredible. And I think it was the first time that I think I really understood just how powerful like dubbing for anime like as kind of this overlay of a second performance onto the original can really be and go and it really just captivated me. And
Mhm.
there's some asking that question of like, sort of what are origin pieces of work that any artist still goes back to. It's like another one that comes to mind is like, Makoto Shinkai's Your Name. Like
Yeah.
to this
Yeah.
day, I'm still like, I still go back. The voice, I mean, just incredible. Cause it's one of those
Mhm.
things where it revealed to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's such capacity for nuance and new interpretation and just depth in just the vehicle alone of dubbing, and those works alone just really do justice to our industry. So and they're just phenomenal to watch. They are my comfort watches. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah.
When I watched Your Name, I think it was like last year. It was for the first time,
Oh
and I was
yeah.
like, because everyone had been like, "Why haven't you watched it?" And I was like, "I don't know." And then I finally watched it, and I was like, "Oh, I understand everything now. I understand the hype. I get it." Um,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
oh my
I know.
god, oh god, it was
And it
just
still
so
has
good.
that. I know, and I think what it is, like, I realize, I think one of my favorite genres of anime, excuse me, is honestly slice of life as well. And even in Makoto Shinkai's Your Name, like, he still has that thing where it's like you'll see like these beautiful poetic moments of just them being on a train, and then here comes the sun through some clouds, and there's people just walking on the street, and you're just like, and it's one of those things where you take with you, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, it just it reminds you that there's a richness and narrative even to just the daily life around you. And so I think
Mhm.
it kind of you watch that, and then it kind of helps you sort of, I think, look at the world anew, when you go back out. So it's just very refreshing in that way.
Yeah, I literally was like, "This is probably one of the prettiest movies I've ever seen." Um, my god, the animation in that is just insane. And
Stunning.
like, and as a romance connoisseur of anime,
Yeah.
I was like eating that up. Um,
I feel yeah.
yeah,
I know.
God.
I'm like, I trust me. I'm right there with you. Alternate timelines as well. Like, throw in that little bit, and I'm just like,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Not knowing what's going on for most of the film, that was great. I was like, how is this working? And then it's just, and then
Right.
that like twist at the end, I'm like, oh, cool, my world is shattered.
I know, exactly. I know, like, but it's I feel you. It's first time watching through. I was like, what's going on? What's going on? And now I'm just like, I just kick back and I'm like, oh, I just let it happen. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
we're good.
So besides those two, what are some of your favorite anime?
Oh my gosh. Well, funny enough, I always try to have a rotation of about 3 to 4 different shows going at once. I try,
Okay.
and and it's usually try to alternate. I'm not always the most faithful to it. But have been watching some fun stuff right now. I'm trying to think, in terms of kind of series programming that I'm watching right now. Hell's Paradise is one that I just can rewatch. I
So
know.
good.
It's, oh my God, it's incredible. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
it needs more hype. It should have the hype that JJK has. Oh,
Dude. Oh my God. No, it's like it's impeccable. And I'm somebody who I don't really like to rewatch series. Like,
yeah.
I'll watch it once, I'm like, that was great, that was awesome. But
Mhm.
to go back and do it again, I'm just like, I love it. The storylines, the illustration, the voice acting as well. I've got some buddies in that who I'm just like, I fangirl over. I'm like that. Um, but I'm trying to think, some things that I'll still go back to on occasion just to like kind of watch would be, I actually wrote down some notes for myself because I was like, my brain gets so scattered. So I had to be like, oh, what we're checking out. Okay. Laid Back Camp is one that I love to watch quite a bit. Like, it's like on a rainy day, but as
Yep.
I said, slice of life,
Yep.
I'm like there. I'm like, give me my comfort watches. But I'm into Bartender Glass of God is one. And I think I'm somebody who,
Okay.
like, I appreciate a good cooking show and like a
Yep.
baking show. It's like I'm a British Bake Off fanatic, so if I was gonna say if there could be like an anime spin-off of that,
Please.
I will also watch that.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, no, and then I'm trying to think, like, just some classics from when I was a kid. Occasionally, I'll catch a little bit of Pokemon here or there. I've got younger cousins now, so like they'll be kind of watching it, or Sailor Moon or things like that. So it's a
Mhm.
it's a little blast from the past.
Yeah. Yeah. I Sailor Moon is one of my favorite shows ever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have a Luna tattoo. Like I am
Oh, dope.
yeah, yeah. I grew up with it, and like it literally from like I would watch it every single day that it was on. And
Oh my
like yeah, my mom would watch it with me, and she's like, "Oh,
god.
this is so good." And I was like, "Yes, yes, mother. My 6-year-old brain is right."
Oh. You're like, I've got it. Yes. No,
Yeah.
it's cool also when you get to see, like, classics sort of endure through different generations, and they find their
Mhm.
own new iteration as well. And it's really amazing to see that, honestly. And I think especially, like, it's at least anime, I think, within America is still so incredibly young. And so it's one
Yeah.
of those things where it's like it's cool to, you see that there's like a legacy already being built, but you
Hmm.
still get to very much connect with its roots because the voice actors are still here, the original creators are still around. Everybody's on, for the most part, on social media nowadays, and
Yeah.
so there's a lot more ways to connect and really build a community around these shows, you know?
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I was lucky enough at London Comic Con in Canada
Mhm.
to be able to interview Greg Abbey, who voices like Tristan from Yu-Gi-Oh,
Oh my
and that
gosh.
was one of my biggest obsessions from childhood. And when they told me I was interviewing him, I was like, "Cool, cool! I'm not shitting my pants at all." Um, yeah, I was like, cool, 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 awesome. And then they're like, oh yeah, he also does Raphael from the 2003 Ninja Turtles, and I was like, oh, awesome, my favorite iteration of the Turtles,
Oh my.
awesome, yeah,
I
cool,
I can feel myself sweating right now, like from
yeah,
the secondhand excitement of it. I get it. I get it. I'd be like,
yeah,
oh my, okay,
yeah.
all right.
Yeah, I did my best to not fangirl on stage. The funniest part was like, I was like, how was it? How did it feel? Because I'm used to like voice actors nowadays who like grew up with anime and like stuff who are like very excited for the roles. Greg was just like, yeah, it was a role. It was it was it was good pay. It was
I
good.
mean, it was a Tuesday. I was
Yeah,
episode such and such.
yeah,
Did Yeah, hey, I appreciate that as well. It's
totally.
I think, I had this conversation recently with somebody. I wish I could remember who it was, but
Mhm.
voice acting alone. I mean, like I've worked across like TV, film, and theater and stuff like that. So I've had the opportunity to kind of run circles in kind of some other ways too. But
Mhm.
with VO, it's so interesting. It's like the experience of making it when you're the actor. It's a very isolating one because it's usually just the director, the engineer, and then you in the booth, especially at least for dubbing anyway.
Yeah.
Um, but it's one of those things where you do it and then it's out there, you maybe see it or maybe not, and then so you don't really know much beyond that. But when you get to interact with people and be like, oh cool, this actually made its way out there, and you get to meet other people associated with it, it's a I think it kind of adds more perspective to it because
Mhm.
it's also interesting. Like I feel like voiceover, at least for dubbing, I feel like it's probably it's a unique medium in the sense that um, it's you can be incredibly prolific within a very short amount of time, meaning
Yeah.
that you can suddenly record an entire episode within 1 hour. And I started off in network TV where it was like, okay, one episode recording schedule is about a week. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we're gonna have about 8 setups today, and it's fun. It's a little bit more of a slog in that way,
Mhm.
but with the pacing of dubbing and VO, it can happen so quick sometimes that you forget even what you worked on too. You're like, I was in that, I did that, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, especially with like additional voices or Walla.
Oh yeah.
Like the amount of times they're like, I worked like one of like a voice actor friend of mine would be like, I worked on that. I was like, yeah, it says you were on Spy Family.
Well, oh my god, I know, and it's again also as well as like there's so much content being produced
Oh
at one
yeah.
time too, where it's I try to keep up with just the current season, and it's it's a hard task to do, uh,
Yeah.
especially when there's so much good stuff out there too. So I usually end up watching stuff a lot of times after the fact, like after its
Mhm.
initial release, just because of time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. We usually keep up with like 3 to 4 like
Yeah.
weekly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gotten to the point now because of the show and everything. I'm like, okay, we can pick this one because this friend's in it. Like we can pick
Exactly.
this one, and then the heavy hitters will watch those. But I was just like, it's the amount of like anime content is coming out is insane.
Oh, it's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think it's great. I kind of always, I'm relatively new to social media, but one of the things
Mhm.
I'll sometimes see in the comment section, I'll be like, man, we're eating good this year, like with like the season, with, like 12, like 10, top shows coming in, and I'm like, okay, yes, it's a chef's kiss kind of moment.
Yeah. So speaking of like so much anime coming out. It's crazy because growing up like as an anime fan,
Hmm.
I got back to it in college and like kind of followed it from there. Seeing so much BL
Hmm.
start to come out
Yeah.
like seasonally is
Yeah.
so amazing. And the fact that we're getting dubs for it,
I
excuse
know.
me.
It's wild, and I'll be honest, to me, I am still, I'm somebody who came to, I grew up with anime, but I still also
Mhm.
didn't really get back into it also until I was really an adult, and it kind of also became a little bit of like, sort of the work that I was doing, and so getting plugged it back into that, you start to really get acquainted with, what is sort of the standard of content out there, and then
Mhm.
what's sort of changing within the industry. And definitely one of the things that is really cool to see is that there's more variation in terms of the content and the stories that are being created out there. And I
Mhm.
think it's more of a reflection of the people that are out there wanting to see stories that represent them and
Yeah.
that about their own communities and their own experiences. I for me, I the show that I got to work on, Twilight Out of Focus, was probably honestly my first real introduction to like anything within the BL sort of verse, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, but and I once I when I got into it, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much charm and nuance and just and levity to this story. But there's also a lot of it is BL oriented, but there's also a lot of universality within the experiences of it. Because I'm like,
Mhm.
you look at anybody and be like, so what was your first crush like when you were 15? And everybody would beat red and be like, oh my gosh, well, okay, I said this
Yeah.
thing, and I was so in love, and it's and it's the depth of that sort of experience, right?
Mhm.
And that was what was so fun about getting to play Mao, who's my character in the show,
Yeah.
and got to play opposite Joshua Waters, who voices Hisashi Otomo, and oh my god, they're so disgustingly talented.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's not fair.
incredible,
Yeah.
incredible. But I mean, wonderful partner to work off of.
Mhm.
But it was lovely because I think it was I think it's a little bit you know, when you talk about that experience of falling in love for the first time, I think it always kind of puts everybody in a bit of a reflective state too, right? Of like, oh, that
Yeah.
what was that experience like? But then, going back through it again, experiencing the first time as you're living the story through these two characters is really cool. And yeah, I think even beyond that, I think that there's when I was working on Mao, kind of privately, and I was like, okay, like I was taking the time to really work through it. I think the romance is really by and large also a vehicle for something much larger in Mao's life and trajectory, which is
Mhm.
it's part of his formative era,
Yeah.
part of that moment of okay, you look at Mao and he is this kid who's absolutely obsessed with cinema and storytelling, and he's always this dedicated and loyal observer, eyes glued to the screen or on the camera or what's in front of him. But it's this sort of interesting kind of romantic provocation with Hisashi that suddenly pulls him actually out back into the center. And rather than living the story vicariously through the lens or through a script, he's doing it himself.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so compelling about that is that I think we can all relate to that to some sort of degree of having been like, okay, I'm trepidatious, I'm tiptoeing the pool, and then well, you just got to dive in, baby.
Yep.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
totally.
yeah, but that's yeah. So getting to when I got to work on it, that felt really important as well to be able
Mhm.
to remember that there's the romance and the connection is so important, and and there's a lot of wholesomeness to it, and I think it has that because they both see each other and they both try to really genuinely support each other in their journeys and see what each one kind of needs and try to offer what they can.
Yeah, totally. And like as an actor, how is it um h- playing that kind of like relationship between Mao and Hisoshi?
Yeah, it's we had so much fun recording
Yeah.
this series, or at least I did. I don't know if everybody was like, "Oh my god!" I know.
You can tell there was a lot of fun being had.
No, it was honestly such a fun experience. And as I said, you really are only ever in the booth, with just you, the engineer, and the director, and
Yeah.
but hearing my major counterpart was Joshua on the other side, and hearing them, it's they're so incredibly generous and available as a performer that all you have to do is kind of listen, and it just puts you there, which is just wonderful because then you get to really play. But for me, I think it was one of those. It was interesting because my experience up until this point, I had been, kind of doing a lot of like kind of more of like Walla and bits that had been on with that required a tremendous amount of, like the fantastical universes, for example, like One Piece, where it's like it's you're playing a huge fantastical universe, and then and these characters that are larger than life, and then talked about slice of life before, where it's you're suddenly pulling the scope a little bit further in, and it's a little bit more of an introspective journey. Mao has these incredibly sort of long internal monologues that no one's privy to except for the audience and himself,
Yeah.
and what he manages to share with Hisashi. But there's a lot of richness in that, and so when it comes time to like act it, a lot of it is just kind of I don't want to sound woo woo with it because I always feel like actors sound so woo woo when we talk about our stuff. But I think it's just about, I think, relating to the experience, finding the truth and the honesty with it. I think Mao is, by and large, somebody who is he's a very gentle soul,
Yeah.
somebody who really, once he kind of, I think, drops the guard, I think he wears his heart on his sleeve, and there's just a great degree of earnestness and honesty to him that is that's I think that's I think that's in keeping with being 15, 16 years old, when you're fresh to the world, and it's first time for a lot of things. So but yeah, it was it was a very like, I think it was a very enjoyable process overall to work through the story, and especially getting to work with this amazing group of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
When so I had first heard of Josh when they were cast in Sasaki and Miyano,
Yeah.
which is a fantastic show. The dub is insane. Like
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
literally
Okay.
so I
Yeah.
was like, cuz I was expecting Miyano, right? And
Hmm.
then Hisashi opens his mouth and I'm like,
I
who is this?
I know. The exact same reaction. I think it was, I had Caitlin Glass who was guest directing on the first episode.
Yeah.
I my headphones off, like, who that? No, that's not Josh. That's not
Yeah.
Josh. And I've spoken with them in person sometimes, and I'm like, interesting. I'm like, okay, man, the vocal range is incredible. It's
Yeah.
just phenomenal,
Yeah.
incredible. Seriously,
Yeah.
yeah.
And like
Um,
the whole cast is incredibly talented.
Oh my gosh, I know. Like one of my favorite elements of the show is just that there's all the comedic relief, and a lot of it I think comes through. I think of in particular, because it starts with the original sort of trio or quadruple of friends, I guess, where it's like, or quattro of friends, where it's like it's Hisashi, not Hisashi, it's Mao, Gichi, and then Teru, and oh my gosh, why can't I remember the other twins' name? I feel so bad. It's the twins. Forgive me,
All
fans.
good.
But it's sort of that quattro, right?
Yeah.
And I just think of Ben Stegmaier's Gichi Ichikawa, who is just so hilarious.
So
I mean,
good.
just and I think plays a really good, when you think about the friend dynamic, plays a really good counterpoint, like between the two. It's like
Yeah.
they talk about, Miles soft, very understated. The Geechi's got the, he's direct, and he's forward, and he's
Yeah.
just he's so in your face, and I absolutely love it. There were so many times that I would bust out laughing because of Ben Stegmaier's takes in the booth, and I was like, okay, all
Yeah.
right, bring it back. Let's get back into the moment. And that's
Yeah.
so
Oh
good.
my
Yeah.
god. So good. So speaking of romance
Hmm.
anime,
Yeah.
you play Suho in True Beauty.
It's a
Uh
true story. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's
Sorry.
um oh good. So he's a very like layered and very like
Yeah.
deep character. How was it kind of building on those layers going into it? Because at the start it's very like he's very kind of just
Yeah.
like just
Oh,
him. And then
Absolutely.
as we go, we see more of him, and you're like, oh,
Oh
you
yeah,
got more
no,
trauma.
tremendously so, and
Yeah.
there's this show, for all of its charm and its levity and it's and it, it has a great appeal to it, but it also
Mhm.
has it really does go into some very very sort of deep places and really
Mhm.
tackle some very strong sort of elements. But yeah, for Suho in particular, when I first approached him, I was very nervous about it because it's the trap is to want to just be flat and monotone and not do anything. And but the reality is there's so many layers and that are kind of all building up to that very sort of external shell of his. And a lot of that is really informed by his past, and it's this is something that's kind of really built upon in terms of the webtoon and also the K drama. But you're talking about somebody who has come from a family that's had sort of ruptured dynamics, that has had health issues, has had some deep personal losses with respect to a friend, mental health issues as well. And it's all a lot to carry on the shoulders of anybody, but especially somebody at the age of like 17, 18 years old, right?
Mhm.
And I think I kind of I sort of look at it as like, his counterpart in this story is Chukyung, who is the lead, and she also tackles her own issues with respect to mental health and her experiences with bullying and trying to find her own identity and her own sense of belonging within the community that she's in.
Yeah.
And her vehicle for that is one modality of that vehicle is makeup and having an external transformation and allowing that to facilitate sort of an internal transformation and putting on a new persona, and realizing that there is a gap between trying to maintain this near perfect persona that is
Yeah.
just it's like on a pedestal, and
Mhm.
there's the humanness in between all of that,
Mhm.
and just how impossible of a task that is, and so she is dealing with trying to consistently put on and wear this mask, if you will. And Suho, I think, is very much the same in a lot of ways, and his mask just happens to be that it's very much just no one's getting in,
Yeah.
nothing's coming out. It is a self-contained bubble, but you start to realize as you get to know him that it may look perfectly sound from the outside, but it's something that's starting to crumble from within as well. And so those two characters getting to meet, and they kind of meet by chance in a way where it's like the masks are down. They aren't necessarily trying to impress each other so much.
Mhm.
I think it's the first time that I think they get sort of how would you say, like a little spark or sense of what a kind of genuine friendship can be, and it starts to
Yeah.
kind of go from there.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love their relationship, and yeah, we watch True Beauty like weekly.
Oh,
It's so good. Oh my
dude,
god.
Rebecca is also incredible. I
Oh
mean,
my,
like, truly, like
yeah.
when I first heard her, I was just like insane in the amount of talent and graciousness that she has, and then also extended to she's incredibly lovely human person as well, like human being to just meet and know as well. But what she brought to Jukyung is just incredibly lovely. I remember within the first episode, there's this expression where it's like you kind of sometimes feel like in boxing, like you're punching above your weight, which means like you're in a different weight class. Like you're like, I'm like, this is a caliber of talent and depth and wisdom and experience. And I'm like, okay, I'll try to keep up with you. but
Yeah.
absolutely lovely
Oh
to
my
work with
god.
her. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, every week I was just like, "Holy shit, can you just stop being so damn talented?"
No, oh
Like
my gosh.
like
Well,
oh
and
my god.
it's so good. And one of the things that I really love about that show is there's the
Mhm.
trio dynamic as well between Chukyong and Suho, and then
Yeah.
Sojin, who's portrayed by Mauricio Ortega Segura. I hope I pronounced your name beautifully, man. My Spanish, I'm still working on it sometimes, but Mauricio is so good, man. And
Oh my
and I
god.
we kind of joked about having a bromance or slash frenemy slash rivalry kind of thing, which is evident in it. But he's got there were so many times I would just laugh in the booth because I don't know if it was the writers or if he was coming up with these things, but the
Yeah.
burns that were being
Oh my
given between
god.
Sojin and Suho were so good, where he's like, "Chubby soap opera wannabe," and I'm just like,
Yeah.
"That was good. That was it. I'll give you that. I went burned, but it was good." So, but yeah, I absolutely love it, man. And we just wrapped on it like I'm so my sense of time's off, but like last week, and yeah, we'll see where it goes. It's it's a very expanded sort of universe. We've certainly seen how it goes in terms of the webtoon and then also the K
Mhm.
drama a little bit. However, it does not follow the webtoon exactly. So I tell people that I'm like, if you're coming from the webtoon, it structures things a little bit differently. So
Okay.
and I think it's partly just a function of the medium, right?
Yeah.
We've got 23 minutes on a screen or something like that. So it's a matter of editing a little bit together, but the essence is still there, and it flows really well. I kind of tell people, especially like if well, I'm part Mexican, and so I grew up with like telenovelas, and so I
Yeah.
tell people, I'm like, it's imagine like a telenovela. It's got that kind of spice to it.
Yeah, it's true. My literally, speaking of Sojun,
Mhm.
literally, at like the first like 2, 3 episodes, I was like, "Fuck this guy." I was like, "This guy's an asshole," and
Oh yeah.
then it just the switch just changes, and I was like, "I love him."
Dude,
Uh,
no, me. I was like, I was like, Jugung should go for him. I mean, I know,
yeah,
no, I'm Suho right now, but I was like, yeah, go Soju. I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah. I was like, "Am I changing
incredible.
sides now?"
I mean, honestly, Mauricio he's so incredibly like he's just got like this natural swagger to him. There's just this
Yeah,
coolness that I'm just like, I want to be like you. He's just so cool in the role, so it's amazing.
yeah, yeah. Oh my god. So how would you pitch True Beauty to someone who doesn't watch anime?
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. I will be honest, I am the worst when it comes to elevator pitches. Just so you know, I'm worried. You
Perfectly
can already
fine.
tell. Um, I would say, okay, pitch it, pitch it, pitch it, pitch it, pitch it. Okay. Okay, imagine your favorite Mexican soap opera, telenovela. I'm gonna come from that. So
Yep.
let's imagine a little bit of okay, if you remember the show, there was a show Betty La Fea or Ugly Betty, which was with America Ferrera, but not exactly that. A little bit of
Yep.
elements of that, tiny little bit. Kind of some high school dynamics. So I'm trying to think. I'm like, what's a good sort of high school show that's got some drama to it, and it's some sort of CW show.
Oh yeah.
Probably like a little bit of Riverdale.
Yep.
Um, and then there's kind of like this kind of pop idol sort of sheen element to it.
Mhm.
My mind want to go to High School Musical, but the reality it's not a musical, and it's
Yeah.
I but I would I would say for it's got these it's on the surface it can be like it's about high school and boyfriends and falling in love and friendships and things like that, and it's all those things, but as I said before, it does have a great deal of depth to it. So it's it's if I think it gives a great deal of justice, and I think kind of nuance to what it is to have the experience of being any sort of being a teenager or a young adult kind of coming into the world, and some of the elements that you'll encounter in just trying to find your own place within the social groups that you're in. So
Mhm.
yeah, I would say it's it resonates on all those fronts,
Yeah.
minus the musical part.
Yeah.
So it's the musical part. Sorry. Okay, I'm working on my.
All good, all good. The opening and endings are bangers though, so
Oh my god,
oh
dude,
my god. I
incredible! I
Yeah.
know. Yeah,
As
the
soon as
amount
I
of time.
found them on Spotify, I was like,
Mhm.
"Yep."
Bring it on, bring it on. Yeah. No, it's okay. I've got a playlist of I mean, I haven't updated in a while, but I have like an old playlist on
Mhm.
Spotify that has like still like some anime and video game tracks on it that I'm like, I'll
Yeah.
just go back to. And actually, funny enough that you mentioned music, like every now and then, like when I'm working on certain characters, Suho in particular, Mao, from the last one that I was in.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think, there's another show as well. But sometimes I'll use music as a way to like just kind of creatively spark stuff. So I'll have like their
Okay.
playlists and stuff like that. So when I would go in for Suho, I'd put on my heavy metal playlist and like, let's do this.
Oh my
So
god.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
they've got some good bangers in the show for sure.
Hi, I'm Steve Yurko.
And I'm Tara Sands. Now available from Maji Media is our new podcast, 4Kids Flashback. 4Kids is the company who brought you the English dub of Pokemon in the late 90s and so many other shows like Yu-Gi-Oh!, Shaman King, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Kirby, the infamous One Piece dub, and so many more.
We'll be talking to the people who worked at 4Kids. Actors, directors, writers, editors, producers, engineers, you get the point. And hopefully get the answers to questions both you and I have about the company.
I actually worked there as a voice actor on some of the shows.
And I was a kid watching the shows and remember way more than Tara does.
And thank God for that. Steve is actually a professional storyboard artist, which gives some really unique insights into anime and animation. Subscribe today wherever you get your podcasts. That's the number 4Kids Flashback.
Hey guys, welcome to the Patreon shoutout portion of today's episode. And today we have two types of shoutouts, which are monthly shoutouts and our weekly shoutouts. So if you want to subscribe to the Patreon, you get exclusive access to behind the scenes stuff, Patreon exclusive videos, and the episode a whole day early. So yeah, let's get into the monthly shoutouts. Shout out to Jeremy and Ellie. Thank you guys so much. And now the weekly shoutout. Thank you to Buff Boy, Brooke, Blythe, Bunny, Geo, Keith, and Mikey. Thank you guys so much for all your support. If you want to support, link will be down in the description. And yeah, back to the episode. Oh yeah. But yeah, when I think it was the episode where they both cry on the bench.
Yeah.
Bro, I literally was like, why am I crying as well? Like,
Yeah, no, it's such a beautiful moment. And I think,
Mhm.
you really see how these two have kind of helped each other out through, through these sort of particular storms that they've weathered.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think it's, you also kind of realize how alone they've both been prior up until this point, honestly,
Mhm.
within their own experiences. And, getting to see them kind of process some of the heavier emotions that they've been experiencing, and just being witness to that for each other. I think that's like one of the highest testaments of love for somebody, right? Is that you
Mhm.
can just, you can be sort of in, empathy with them and support for them. And yeah, it was one of those moments that, yeah, it got my heart for sure. That particular day was a heavier recording day.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, understandable. Oh God.
yeah,
So moving to why Rayliana is in the Duke's mansion or is at the Duke's mansion.
yeah, she's in the mansion. She
She's
broke
there.
in. I
She's
think
there. Yeah, she broke
she's
in.
visiting the mansion. She
Yeah. Uh, so you you play Adam Taylor.
yes,
My partner and I just randomly put it on
yeah,
and we were like, "Oh, cool, this sounds interesting." And oh my god, I
yeah.
was hooked.
Dude, it's oh my god, it's got some fantastic elements to. I mean, it's an isekai on its own,
Yeah.
and it kind of basically follows like the strange death of a young woman
Mhm.
who don't know how, but she ends up kind of dying, and then she ends up getting reincarnated into this other life.
Yep.
Um, and suddenly, she is part of a noble family, and so begins kind of her. I try not to give too many spoilers, but
Yeah.
basically begins to follow the relationship between her and the most sought after eligible bachelor within the kingdom, the
Yep.
Duke. And
Yeah.
I play Adam Taylor, who is his right hand man and kind of very like stone faced assassin. But
Yeah.
he's got a sweet tooth too. That's the funny thing. He's got like his like little soft. He's got his like kind of soft boy spots. But you're like,
Yeah.
okay, you're an assassin that can like completely just whip out a blade and just decimate everything. But at the
Yeah.
same time, you're like, I would like some candy.
Yeah. Yeah.
A sweet tooth. But it's so much fun, and he's a you've seen it. He's a man of few words.
Yep.
But I used to go into and Caitlin Glass was the director for that show, and we would have we always have a blast working together. But I have such a laugh just going in there because they'd be like, okay, so we need you to do a today. I'm like, I got you, and I offer him different variations. Mm.
Yeah.
And she's like, we got him, and I was like, okay, I can help you out if you want more. But that would shortest recording sessions, but it's funny, a character like that, when he speaks, it's like everybody suddenly just goes, what?
Yeah.
He can talk, he said
Yeah.
something. uh but yeah, I love it. It's he's such a fun one to play. And yeah, I hope we come back for it. I want
Yeah.
more time with Adam Taylor.
Yeah, exactly. Because we finished it and I was like, I want more because I love mystery and there's so
Yeah.
much mystery in this.
Dude, oh my
Oh
gosh,
my God.
same. I was somebody who grew up with this isn't exactly the same sort of genre, but like
Mhm.
I grew up with was it favorite movie was Clue. I was like,
Oh,
give me a
yeah.
murder mystery any day. I'm just
Yep.
like, oh my god. Jeez. Actually, if there is a Clue based anime out there, let me know.
Oh
Like
my
I
God.
will.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my
literally.
gosh.
It was really funny because when like Adam would talk, I guess I was like, I just want to protect you. Um,
Yeah.
I know you can protect me, but like,
Yeah, no. And I mean, and it's funny because his background is very it's kind of an enigma to people, but he
Mhm.
was, essentially a child soldier, which is kind of a darker sort of element of his past,
Yeah.
and managed to secure a position being essentially the bodyguard of the Duke, which has a lot has a certainly better quality of life to it in a lot of
Mhm.
ways. And I think I think he's somebody who has lived in the space of always following a directive and existing within the space of a survival mode. And so I think interfacing with somebody like Ray Liana, it's and especially who's high noble born sort of woman within this universe, it's being even just on the receiving end of her kindness, it's a new thing for him. So I think
Yeah.
you know I I think it's yeah, I think I think it
Yeah.
puts him in some unfamiliar territory, but it's fun to watch.
Mhm. Oh yeah. And when there was a moment when the Duke's like asking Adam, like, "What do you think of her?" And he actually says something. Both my
Yeah.
partner and I were like, "He's
What?
speaking! Holy shit!"
I know. I was gonna say, hopefully, going forward, if there's any sort of other iterations, hopefully he gets a few more words in.
Yeah.
But yeah, we recorded that I think back in I think it was 2023.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm still trying. I'm still getting a handle of like what is usually the timeline for for a series when it comes out, and then if there's another season or iteration, right? But you know, hopefully we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. 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 It was fantastic. I was like, "Give me more now, please."
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. And I think is it Lindsay Seidel, I
Yeah.
believe is the lead in it. Yes.
Yeah.
Incredible. Incredible. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And like, oh my God. Oh, everyone was so good. And I just, oh, it was
Oh, yeah.
so good. So, how did you originally get into acting?
Oh, into acting. Honestly, when I was like a little kid, I think that the very first thing I ever did was a nativity play, and my mom was like, "Oh my gosh, thank God, there's an outlet for that energy. Let's keep that going." Um, but I kind of started off in theater, and then stayed that way for a while, and then I'm trying to think. It was mostly just plays and things like that, and then I actually kind of went off and did kind of some further studying after college and stuff like that, and then inevitably kind of got into the circus for like a little bit. I had a circus life at one point. I know, said they didn't keep me around. I wasn't very funny. um, but it's okay. Yeah, no, but it was a fun experience, and I also started off as a dancer as well, and for me, I've always been somebody who I enjoy movement. I enjoy different sports and things like that, and I've still kind of kept that now. I don't dance as really in the same way that I used to before, um, but I think that definitely was something that really kind of helped going into acting and whatnot. Just there's certain parallels I think that sort of translate over.
Mhm.
But then inevitably, like, kind of ran the gamut with other things, TV, film, commercials, and jobbing actor is one of those things I've learned. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was diversify. Learn to do a bunch of different things, find what you're good at, what resonates with you, and wherever the yeses are, follow the yeses. And as far as anime and voice acting goes, it's a newer kind of chapter right now for me because it's something I started maybe it's like I think 3 years ago at this point. I think my first gig ever was doing Walla for Heaven's Official Blessing.
Oh my god.
Also, I know one of my favorite. Oh my god, one of my favorite shows. I know.
So good.
Amazing, amazing, and yeah, and then it just kind of got in from there, and I've been North Texas based for a long time, and Funimation's out here, and then Sony Crunchyroll, and so I've kind of always been on the periphery, and then I think it just kind of happened through auditions through my agency, and just eventually kind of started kind of getting in there a little bit, but yeah, it's been fun. Working in VO, as I said before, it's very prolific. You can do a lot of work in a very little amount of time, and it can go by so fast. But one of the things I really, really, really love about it is how creatively freeing it can be, and it really flexes your muscles. You'll go in for, like, let's say a bit or a Walla session for the show One Piece, and it's like, okay, I've got to play a 6'5" mob boss, who chain smokes cigars and has a machine gun,
Yeah.
and cool, we've got some bits, and let's make it happen, and test your stamina as well. Those particular sessions, I'll always end up sweating by the end of them, but then you have something where it's something a little bit more introspective, a little bit more reflective, where it might be a lovely little episode of Laid Back Camp, and you get to play a Keanu Reeves knockoff, which I got to try my Keanu Reeves voice once. I don't know. I hope I did Keanu Reeves justice. But what I mean to say is, you get in the booth, and it's just a matter of, you really have to just be ready to play it, and go into it, and be able to take direction, and just move with it, and just say yes, and
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. So what advice do you have for people wanting to get into voice acting?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I tell anybody is first of all, is always find a class or some sort of a learning environment. I think it's going to be one. It's a safe space to be able to learn more about where the craft in particular of acting, finding specifically what works for you, what your natural strengths might be, and then also where are areas that you can develop. At the same time, that's also where you build your community. It's where you build your network.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that classroom that you share with somebody, it could be a year, 2, 3 years down the line that suddenly, oh, that's awesome, they're working on this really, really big show, or they're a director on this show. And that's not to say that it's like you're not looking at transactional sort of thing. But what I mean to say is that I think the company you keep, it influences the habits and the behaviors that you will start to eventually develop for yourself. um, and I for me, I think education is such a big part of it. And whether it's, even if it's not a class, if you can't afford to do a class, go out there and, be watching the material that you want to watch. If you're somebody who wants to do dubbing specifically for anime, make sure that you are giving yourself the opportunity to watch a wide breadth of genres and works, for of different shows. And if you're somebody that, you're like, I want to work on shows like Law and Order, then watch procedural shows, watch shows that have that sort of formulaic writing, study those writers, study those directors. It's whatever you want it to be. I kind of call it your North Star. It's like, what is the North Star, the one that you want to go to? And then, you kind of work backwards from there. But I would say education, I would say, networking with your contemporaries, your peers, be there to support each other, and, ask for support when you need it too. And, it's built little bit by little bit, but there's one podcast I used to listen to a long time ago called That One Audition, and it's hosted by this actress in LA named Alicia Oxy. And she says very famously in the show, and she's been running for years, she says, this is not a 6-year career. It is a 60-year career. It is one that requires a great deal of longevity to build. And sometimes maybe it happens faster for some than others. There's a lot of other variables and elements at play that, within this industry are not within your control. Which is why I say go, focus on what you can control, which is your education, focusing on cultivating your community, on your own gifts, networking, putting yourself out there. But when you kind of start to frame it in that sort of, way, at least for myself, I think it kind of, because when I was first starting out, I think I had a great deal of internal frustration of, like, why isn't something happening right now? I want it right now. I want it like that. I felt like a dog just chasing a car. and then I kind of realized, I was like, focus on where you are, develop what you have, and really get to know yourself, and be like, what is it that you really, really, really want? Because I think for a long time I thought, I I think I modeled my goals a little bit off of what my peers were wanting as well, versus
Mhm.
doing some deeper introspection. And yeah, that was a long-winded reply,
Right.
but I hope that there was something useful in there. And I tell people, I'm like, if my advice doesn't resonate, throw it away. But if there's something in there that does, I hope it was helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's perfect. So something just popped in my head while you were
Yeah.
talking. So what was kind of your reaction when getting the email or phone call for getting Mao?
Oh my gosh. I did not expect that to come at all.
Mhm.
I really didn't. Actually, I didn't. I almost didn't even audition for the show.
Oh, wow.
I well, I was, I was in a, I was, it was one of those things where I think I was in a, I was in a bit of a burnout, like burned out. I think a little bit. I was a little like, I was like, what's happening this week? I think I was in the move and stuff, and so I was like, and then a friend of mine like. That one evening it was around 8 p.m. and the audition was due at midnight, and she's like, by the way, and like she's also an actor too, and they get the general auditions that go through Crunchyroll, and she was, you should consider auditioning for this if you haven't already. And I was like, okay, fine, I will. Her name's Giovanni Cruz, phenomenal actor. I have to give her the shout out. She's lovely. But she encouraged me to do it, and I said, okay, I'll do it. So I go out for it, and I did it. I didn't think that anything would come of it, and then I got an email. I think it was like a Thursday at like 2 p.m. offering the role, and I said, oh my gosh, yes. And then they were like, great, can you come in the next 2 hours to start recording? I was like, what? And I'm kind of somebody who I'm like, I'll do as much homework as I can for an audition. Unfortunately, this one
Yeah.
was a quick turnaround, and that's on me. Don't be like me. Don't wait till the last minute. Don't do that. That's a bad thing. But I I do as much homework as I can, and then I do an audition, and I will take the scripts or sides that I have, I tear them up and I throw them away, and I'm like, cool. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and if not, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the mentality I go with. But with 2 hours turnaround, I hadn't really done any sort of prep or deep dive into the Twilight Out of Focus universe. And so the first
Yeah.
session, where I'm in there, and I'm just like, I'm sweating bullets a little bit. And Caitlin Glass is so gracious. She was the casting director and the one of the guest directors for the first episode. Was just so helpful in terms of laying everything out, and then getting to hear Joshua for the first time, and just some of the notes that she gave, and it were so incredibly helpful. And one thing that Caitlin Glass said to me, a while ago, it wasn't in this particular session, but it always stuck with me, was, the mic will only pick up what you put down. And it means that, if you're not living in the story, if you're not connected to it and being present, it's not going to show up. And
Yeah.
kind of resonated, because I remember, coming from TV and film, they say, a camera is one of those things that it's the best lie detector. It will pick up your BS so fast.
Yeah.
And the same holds true for a mic. And I think it was kind of a saving grace in this instance, that maybe I didn't fully know. I mean, I knew what I was getting into from the sides that I'd gotten and stuff like that. But I just remember just listening to Caitlin's direction, be like, okay, take that direction. We'll redirect it. We'll do the next read, and focusing on that particular note, and then trusting them to put it together. I think, the dubbing process, I think I'm learning more and more to be like, do it and then let it go. And especially because, you don't see all the moving parts with it from where you stand as that one VO actor. So you don't know how they're trying to mix all the different sort of takes that they have from other actors and other
Mhm.
scenes and things like that to then build the whole narrative universe that they have. So it was a set it and then let it kind of thing. But yeah, no, thank you for that question. No, it was faster than I thought.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Damn. Damn. Can
Exactly.
you come
I
in
know, that
two
was my
hours?
reaction too. I'm in the car. I'm like, oh my God, on the way there.
Oh
But
my
yeah,
God. That's crazy.
yeah. I
Wow.
know. I did not realize that I've never had in my career so far, I've never had an experience like that where it's just great. Be here in the next 2 hours. But I'm happy I said yes. It's definitely, it's a project that's very much, touched my heart, and it's always, I think it's always going to be a little special to me as the first lead. But, I appreciate that, it's, it really does feel like such a privilege and an honor to be able to have a piece of work, a show that you get to work on for 12, 13 weeks straight. And because it's really, it's not it's not an opportunity that always comes up. And I say for myself, I'm grateful for all the work that comes along. I love it. I love what I get to do, but everything happens so fast. So when you get 3 months or a whole season to work on a show and get to develop a character, it's like pie in the sky. It's amazing.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that. So going from a fan of anime to
Mhm.
working in anime, how has your relationship with anime changed throughout?
I hate it now, man. I hate it so hard. I
I had
okay.
a nickel every time I heard that. No.
I don't know. I'm no opposite. In fact, I so appreciate what it takes just to even make a dub. I'm on the secondary side of it, as
Yeah.
Japanese typically to English, sometimes Korean, but Japanese to English.
Mhm.
You're on the second end of it. But there's so much work. There's countless amounts of hours and so many hands that contribute to making just one episode of a show. And so it's any chance that I have the opportunity to talk with another VO artist, or sometimes do like a little behind the scenes digging on for a YouTube video on a particular show. I'm there for it, especially shows like yours. I like to be able, no, I love the inside scoop on it, because
Mhm.
there's so much that goes into it.
Oh
Truly, like.
yeah. Yeah. I like, kind of, because again, growing up as an anime fan, you're just like, "Oh yeah, voices on a screen because I'm a child." Um and then as you yeah, and then as you like grow up, you're just like, "Oh yeah, there's people behind these." And then,
Yeah.
you meet these voice actors at cons and everything, and it's like yeah,
It's amazing. Yeah.
yeah.
And then you think about, the communities that get built around them too. It's
Mhm.
it's it's really, really cool to get to see. We talked about, for example, even just Sailor Moon, how it
Yeah.
now has generations of fans.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. I think of, I imagine for the original creators of these shows, it's got to be so cool for them to see that, it's like, this is something that is, it's built it into its own universe now.
Mhm. Totally. Yeah. It's insane to see where we were as kids and
Yeah.
then to where we are now, where the kids who watch anime are the cool kids,
Yeah.
and the kids back then, we used to be bullied.
A little. Well, it's there's this, oh my gosh, no, and the history, it's so much more widely accessible now too. I
Yeah.
think I think you go back even, like, maybe not 10 years, maybe like 15 years or something like that. It's what you could get was a more of a limited range of options.
Yeah.
And you probably had to kind of jump through more hoops, and certainly there weren't streaming services
Oh
available
no.
for it. So we're
Yeah.
we're in the new era, man.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Definitely.
kids aren't watching Spanish dubs with English subtitles anymore.
Exactly.
That was a time.
I know. Are
Um,
we allowed to do the equivalent in my day?
yeah, in my day,
In my
we had to watch Dragon Ball in 7 parts, uh, in Spanish with English subtitles.
Seriously, on a grainy VHS in the
Yeah.
AV room in my high school.
Oh god. The last part was missing. It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
All these years, you've still wondered what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, what happened to Goku? Who knows? Oh god. Before we go, what are some anime that you've been loving this year so far?
Oh my gosh. Okay, this year. Ooh, do. Okay. Okay. Wait, anime that I've been looking this year that have currently been released this year. You mean that
Yeah.
are like new on the scene? Okay. Nina the Starry Bride. I just started it.
So
I
good. So
Oh
good.
my god. I'm only like I'm like, I was literally, I think, on the second episode last night, and then paused
Yeah.
because I was just I was like, I gotta sleep.
Yeah.
That's typically when I'm watching anime, is usually right before bed.
Yeah.
The Starry Bride, Spice and Wolf. I'm trying to think what else. Ooh, I'm in a bit of a rewatching phase. I'm not gonna
Okay.
lie.
Yeah.
It's more of that right now.
Mhm.
But those are kind of the newer ones of this particular season.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but if you haven't, do you have any particular recs before we
Ron Mahaf on Netflix has been fantastic.
go? Okay. All right.
I haven't seen the original, so I'm going in blind, and it has been like straight up like the animation is beautiful, like it's like 80s like colors, like oh my god,
Oh,
it's so
okay.
good, it's so good, and Dawn to
Okay.
Dawn is just Dawn to Dawn because that's just
Dude, okay. I'm still on episode 1 right now, and I finished episode 1. I
yeah,
still need to keep going with it, but it's so, oh my god, it's so good.
it's
Oh,
so good.
uh,
Yeah,
I'm so glad it's getting the attention that it deserves because it's
yeah.
just, yeah,
Yeah.
incredible. Yes.
Speaking of Nina,
Yeah.
when Nina came out, I was like, "Oh my god, this was so good!" And I like tagged Ben and Jill.
Yeah.
And Ben messaged me. He's like, "So you liked it?" I was like,
Oh,
"Yes."
dude, he's incredible in it. Oh,
I
he's
know.
so good. Oh,
Yeah.
it's so good. It's so good. I mean, I've known Ben for a little while now, and
Yeah.
he's just such a remarkable performer,
Oh,
and he absolutely, that man deserves his flowers.
100%. Like
100%.
it's not fair.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and including Jill on the show too.
Oh,
She's incredible, truly
yeah.
incredible.
Like everyone's done a fantastic job. It was just did you like it? Yes, I liked it. I wouldn't have made a post about it if I didn't. God.
I get you. Yeah, it's one of those actor things. I think we're all like, I hope it
Oh yeah.
was there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I get
But
it. But
he's,
it was just like, oh my God, you turd. But yeah,
oh
Nina's
man,
been fantastic. Oh my God.
dude, so good. Yeah, we talked about it. I think we're kindred spirits in the sense of liking rom coms
Oh my
and so,
God.
but I was gonna say this one, it goes a little bit darker in some places, but I
Yeah, just a little bit.
a little bit. I was gonna say, but yeah, no. For me, I'm like, if anyone ever has recommendations for rom coms or anything food based or
Yep.
slice of life, I'm like, send it my way.
Yeah.
Send it my way. I will take absolutely.
Yeah, the amount of people that have been like, "Oh my god, give me rom-com suggestions," and like every feels like every episode I talk about Sugar Apple Fairy Tale, but it's just
Yeah.
so good.
It's Celeste. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
It's incredible. It's like it's very good. The chemistry is just incredible. I'm just
yeah,
like, it's one of those things you're just like biting your nails. You're
yeah.
like, okay.
Well, well, it's just like the this core 2 opening.
Mm.
We basically binged it all. So core 2 started and it was a new opening. I was like, cool. And then the guy started giving her flowers and I was like, I swear to God, if you turn this into a harem, I words are going to be said.
This
Oh,
is this is not what we signed up for. This is
yeah.
not. This is not.
Yeah. I
This
was
is
like,
not the sugar apple fairy tale we
yeah.
knew.
Yeah. Don't you dare. And then they didn't. I was like, oh, thank God. Oh
I
my
get
God.
it. No, I get it. There's like, there's certain series and certain characters you just, but you get to know like the integrity of it, and you get to know it's like I kind of maybe the spiritual backbone of the show, so to speak.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I know it's true to this show. It's not that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man.
I push the rom-com agenda to everyone. Like literally one of my friends who's like very shonen heavy was like, I just want fights. I'm like, hi, we're watching Fruits Basket right now.
Yes. Well, it's funny because I probably need to go to the other camp of it and be like, do a little bit more shonen, just for fun, just to variegate it and whatnot. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Get a nicely balanced palette. Of
Yeah.
anime.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I always am like, okay, there's Fruits Basket, there's but that's trauma and comedy, so and I
We
was like,
work well together, man. It's the
yep,
duality.
yep. Here's Comey Can't Communicate. Yep. So
Exactly.
good. Yep. God. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much, Adam.
Of course, of course. Where can the lovely people find you?
Yeah, I am on Instagram. I'm on Blue Sky. I am also on Twitter, all at Eduardo Vildasol, EduardoVildasol. That is a very long name, but it's all my name. And yeah, just yeah, please, I always happy to connect with people who've seen shows that I've been on, or even not. I love just being able to connect with the community out there. So please say hi and let's hang out virtually. I'm an introverted person, really.
Yeah.
I was gonna go outside for an hour.
Well, yeah, follow him down there. All of the links will be down there. You can follow me at Corky Cosplays on Instagram, Adam Corky everywhere else. Subscribe to the Patreon. You get exclusive behind the scenes content as well as the episode a day early. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.
No.